I'd like to introduce a friend of mine who is wears many different hats depending upon where he may be. My friend, Dr. Mel Rosenberg, actually flew here from Tel Aviv to join us today. He's a microbiologist. He's also a thinker, and he's a scholar, and he's a teacher. And he's someone who, we'll have to wake him up in a second. But Mel is actually somebody who likes to challenge the unknown and status quo. And although he's too embarrassed to talk about it, later, maybe next week, we're going to announce a new conference we're doing called the My 10 Minutes. He and I believe that everyone in their life has 10 minutes that define them. So we're going to start to explore this through blogs, through podcasts, and through conferences, and find people who are amazing, or really everyone has a story. It's not amazing this, it's amazing that you're alive, you have a life, you have a story to share. And we believe that everyone could find 10 minutes to define who they are. So later this year, on December 15th in Tel Aviv, Mel and I are co-hosting an event called My 10 Minutes. And any of you who may be in the area, you're all invited to drop by. And if you'd like to think about your 10 minutes, we'd like to invite you to engage in a conversation. But Mel, Mel, get out.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, I should say that
this is
this is show and tell. Dr. Mel. This is everything he learned in kindergarten, right?
We're talking about kindergarten.
Kindergarten.
Yes, I don't walk the streets wearing this. And today on our show, we're going to talk about the differences between frogs and toads. But first, I have a letter. And my letter is from Eva from Milano. And she wants to know why the goldfish in her aquarium never shuts its eyes even when it's asleep. Well, thank you, Eva. Grazie mille. And buongiorno. And I will try and answer your letter to me. Okay, well, I guess that in order to shut your eyes, you need to have eyelids. And I'm not sure that goldfish have eyelids. But I think that there is a deeper answer to this question. The reason that Eva's goldfish in the aquarium never shuts its eyes is because it's afraid that if it does so, somebody will come and take it back to school. Now, thank you. I'm a biologist, and and the word school comes from animals such as fish. A school of fish. Now, if the goldfish were in a school of goldfish or sardines or herring, there would be 10,000 of them in the sea, the same color, the same size, the same species, all swimming to the right, and then all of them swimming to the left. And there's a biological significance to this, because if you're a sardine or a herring in the ocean, you don't want to be eaten by a predator. You all know the predator fish song, right? And you're welcome to sing along with me. It goes something like this. All the big fish are swimming after me. You have to participate. We're going to start again. All the big fish are swimming after me. You may catch the others, but you won't catch me. You may catch the others, but you won't catch me. You may catch the others, but... Oh! So, fish in a school of fish are worried about being eaten by a predator. And a predator comes, a big fish comes, he's 10,000 fish going this way and this way, and they all look the same. And he gets all famished, and he doesn't know who to eat. Right? Now, if you're the odd fish out, and today I'm going to talk about misfish like myself. If you're a misfish, right, and you're wearing different clothes, or you're short and fat and Jewish in a Gentile school, and your name is Melvin with a Y, then don't look for that on Google, you won't find me with a Y. Then you're a misfish, right? Now, but let's go back to the fish. Why is the goldfish so worried about going back to school? Because over the past century, the rules have changed. Okay? Today, with modern society and modern science, we have fish ships, trawlers, right? And with sonar and radar, we go after the schools of fish. So if you are one of the 10,000 fish that look the same and think the same and behave the same and go to the right the same as everybody else, we eat all of you. And actually what we do, and this is show and tell with Dr. Mel. So I have my sardine can from Israel, right? And we put you straight from school into a sardine can. And as with other kinds of schools, sometimes the head doesn't fit in. And I don't know whether you can see this, so they just lop the head off and put the rest of your body into the sardine can. So much for fish schools. Now, I'm not going to say unkind things about schools, because I went to school many years ago, and I was a misfish back in the 1950s. But what I do want to explain is that it saved my creative spirit. It saved my career, because everybody else learned the right things in kindergarten. The title of my talk is What I Learned in Kingergarten, and that is not very much. Because the mores of the day and the social pressure in Canada in the 1950s was to take Jewish kids who were left-handed and to turn them into God-fearing Christian kids who were right-handed. So for a whole year at the Hulse Kindergarten in Ottawa, I spent a whole year in kindergarten with a teacher, and she thought she was doing the right thing, moving the crayon constantly from my left hand to my right hand. I, of course, would move it back to my left hand. We had to pray to Jesus. I knew from home that I was Jewish. I wasn't supposed to do that. And the teacher said to me, if you open your eyes during prayer, you will find something awful. And I did, and I found something awful, the teacher looking back at me. But I managed to, by the way, how many of you have your kindergarten report cards? Raise your hand. Okay. I have, but do you have it for 54 years? I kept my kindergarten report card, and it has some kind of meaning to me, because I feel I never graduated. I was a misfish. I was a misfish all through school. I never really got it. You know, because in kindergarten, all children are creative. They're creative to some different extent, but they're creative and they ask a lot of questions. Why is this and why is that? There's a famous joke about a guy going through a forest with his daughter and his son, and the daughter says, "Daddy, why is the sky blue?" And Daddy says, "Gee, I don't know." And they go on a little bit, and the son says, "Daddy, why are the leaves green?" And the father says, "Yeah, I don't know that either." And they keep walking and asking questions. And finally, one of the kids turns to his dad and says, "Dad, do you mind that we're asking you so many questions?" And the father says, "Of course not. If you don't ask, how will you ever learn?" And 5-year-olds ask questions. And then they go to school. In school, you don't ask questions anymore. You just answer them. This is the distinction I want to make in my talk. Okay? 5-year-olds ask questions incessantly. But they're in preschool. Then we move them into school with the other fish, right? And they have to answer exams. And in exams, 2 plus 2 equals, right? Now, if I were a teacher in school, I would have the kids asking the questions. The exam would say 4. You invent the question. Because that's what life is all about. So because I was a misfish, I went through school asking questions. I didn't understand why 2 plus 2 is always 4, why that's the right answer. By the way, it isn't always the right answer. Right? I wondered, when we studied about the War of 1812, by the way, that's very important because next year we have the bicentennial of the War of 1812. Now, if you studied in New York, you learned that the Americans won the War of 1812. That's ridiculous because the Brits burned Washington to the ground. If you're in Canada, you learn the Canadians won the War of 1812, which is ridiculous because they didn't. And the British who actually won the war don't even learn about it in school because they were busy fighting Napoleon. And, I went through school, I learned about Vasco da Gama. I'm sure that's very important for some people. It wasn't important for me. To study Russian, I had to spend 2 years studying Latin. But I did my time. I went through the whole K-12, went on to university. I actually even became a university professor in microbiology. A couple of years ago, I began to realize that that was no fun. The most fun you can have teaching as a professor of microbiology is you have a bunch of medical students and you're going to teach them about streptococcal infections. I mean, get out of here, that's boring. So I started giving a class with my postdoc, Dr. Alona Mead, on creative thinking to engineering students. It was an amazing course. But what we learned is we had to bring the 24-year-old students back to kindergarten. Because the secret of creativity is not only in problem solving. The secret of creativity is also in asking the nifty questions. The successful scientists are not the ones who know the answers. They're the ones who know how to pose the hypothesis. And the famous painters, they ask the questions and then they answer them on the canvas. So what is it that 5-year-olds have that we don't? They don't care so much about the answers. They like to ask questions. They like to ask questions. So here I am, a university professor, teaching microbiology. A couple of years ago, I said, that's it, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. So what I do now is I write children's books. These, by the way, are books. They're made out of paper. They may become obsolete someday, but I still... And most of the books I give away, and they're all free on meltells.com, and I urge you please to visit that website. Narrated children's stories, free for kids. Most of my characters are misfish like me. There's Kenya the kangaroo, who can't hop as high as her friends do. And there's Gloomerous, the serious laughing hyena, which is terrible. And then this year, I discovered YouTube. And there isn't that much stuff, safe content, for 4 or 5-year-olds on YouTube. But they go there. Kids visit YouTube from the age of 0. So I made my own channel on YouTube. It's called Show and Mel, where I talk about the really important things in life, like the difference between a cherry and a cherry tomato, and how cool it is to use asparagus spears instead of chopsticks to eat grapes, and to share my love for all things wonderful and childish with kids who really get it. Thank you very much. Question? I don't have any minutes. Any questions? I should say that I'm the first person here to open an account today on WebDoc. So you'll all be able to find me there. Yes, to Gio Geller.
The role of curiosity.
The role of curiosity is immense. I'm sitting here looking at Albert Einstein. He said something like, education is what you get when you forget everything that you learned in school. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that the school system wants us to conform. It wants us to answer questions. That's how it grades us. But when you get out of school, ladies and gentlemen, and kindergarten graduates, the important thing is not to answer the question. The important thing is to be a person who asks questions. The lives of our children, even if our kids today are so conversant in Twitter and they blog and so on, when they are adults, they're not going to have an idea what their kids are doing. Technology is going to change over the next 5 or 10 or 15 years. You have to be able to be curious, to ask the questions, and the misfish, for better or for worse, have an advantage because they never conform, because they can't to start with.
Thank you, Mel.
Thank you so much.